Today we're diving into the world of marginal gains and technological innovation.
We're talking about one bar, and is it ready for your triathlon bike?
And should you be using it, and how much will it save, if anything? Triathletes and cyclists, for that matter, are always looking for the next big thing. And in the last few years, one buy has certainly been threatening to be that big thing. In fact, it has been a pretty big thing in some forms of cycling for some time now. In the world of mountain biking, it's pretty much the standard setup now.
Yeah, but one bar hasn't really caught on in the world of triathlon, although lately some pros are swearing by it. So we thought we'd investigate.
Now, before we jump into any more of this, make sure you subscribe to GTN by hitting the little icon down below and give this video a like. Give it a little thumbs up.
Right, now if you wonder what we're on about with all of this, we're talking about the number of chain rings on your crankset. 1 or 2, as in 1x11 or 2x11, referred to as 1x or 2x.
Yeah, now most of us will be used to 2x's. This is what's pretty much on most of our road bikes and has been for as long as we'll all remember. Essentially, with a 2x setup, you've got 2 chain rings up front, which you can switch between using the front mech or front derailleur. And pretty much since the invention of road bikes, bike manufacturers have been looking for ways to increase the number of gear options on our bikes. And even today, with the arrival of 12-speed cassettes, has been a major shift.
Shift, I see what you did there. But in the not too recent past, designers of mountain bikes went the other way and reduced the number of gears. For reasons of tire clearance and mountain bike suspension design, they decided to remove one of the front chain rings and the now redundant front derailleur.
Yeah, and the world of road cycling saw this within mountain biking and thought, that's quite clever, it looks pretty cool. Could potentially be cheaper, save some weight, and be more aerodynamic. So then we saw some manufacturers trying this 1x setup within the road world.
Yeah, but on road bikes, there's a compromise. Essentially, with a 2x11 setup, you are given 14 or 15 distinct gears. You don't actually get 22 because there's a significant overlap of the gears. A 1x11 setup, by contrast, gives you, well, 11, obviously. Now, you can have the same broad range of gears that you had on your 2x11 setup, but then you're going to have bigger gaps between the gear ratios and you're going to find it harder to find your optimal cadence. Or you can sacrifice some of those higher gears or some of those lower gears, or both.
Yeah, and also the weight and aero savings of not having a front derailleur just don't really compensate for those compromises of having a 1x setup. And for that reason, they very much aren't catching on in the world of road cycling. And I can hear the keyboards going already, people angrily commenting saying, Mark, you're wrong. But I'm not. For these reasons, it isn't catching on in the world of road cycling, but with rear derailleurs maybe improving in the future, we may see that coming.
Yeah. So what about triathlon then? Is one bar ready for your triathlon setup? And the answer is actually yes. On a flatter triathlon course, you're actually unlikely to ever drop into that 39-tooth inside chain ring. And if you're never going to use it, there's not really much point in carrying it all the way around the course. And therefore, there's not much point in carrying the front derailleur around the course. And you could be saving maybe 250 grams with the front derailleur and maybe 3 watts in aero gains. So having a 1x is actually a viable setup for a triathlon.
But there is a caveat or two. Now, firstly, it's not quite as simple as just removing one of your chain rings, removing the front mech, your shifter, and then just yanking the cable out. Obviously, if you've got a mechanical bike sponsor, it's a no-brainer, but if you're doing your own bike maintenance, you may want to pause for a second before doing so.
Yeah. A 1x setup also requires its own chain ring. Essentially, it has an alternating narrow and wide teeth to hold the chain better and prevent chain drop. It's called a narrow-wide chain ring. Go figure.
Yeah, and then on top of that, if you want to make any change to your cassette range, which may or may not be necessary, you may want to consider whether you need a different mech that can cope with that wider range.
Yeah, so Mark, let's get to changing the Speed Max over to 1x.
let's take a closer look at this one by setup, which we may or may not have brought the GTM mechanic in to help with that switch.
Yeah, now that it has been set up though, it allows us to demonstrate one of the other issues with one by. On all but the flattest course, you're going to use your full range of gears on the rear cassette. And that means there's an efficiency penalty. Essentially, whenever your chain moves off the ideal chain line, there is additional friction, and that is going to slow you down a little bit. And of course, with one by, you just cannot be in the optimal gear with a straight chain line as often as you can with the 2-bar setup.
And of course, if you're someone who cross chains anyway, is too lazy to use the front mech and change between those chain rings, then of course you are losing the advantages of a 2-by. And yes, I am looking at you, and I'm also guiltily going to put my hand up here.
Naughty, yeah. We were going to do some tests out here today to show you the difference between 1-bar and 2-bar. But like we said, this is marginal gains. We're talking maybe 3 watts in aero savings, 250 grams in weight savings with the 1-bar, and maybe 3 to 6 watts in efficiency savings with the 2-bar and a chain that's not crossed. And there's literally no test we can do out here that is going to show you that. So we are going to go for a ride, and we are going to make some observations, but we're not really going to do a test.
Yeah, we're going to make some real-world observations first, though, because, well, 1-by looks slick. I just love how clean it looks.
It does look clean, Mark. I mean, the 1-bar setup looks clean. Your bike, not so much today. Also, how well you use your 2-bar makes a huge difference. How well you shift from small chainring to big chainring and vice versa, and also how well you set up that front derailleur is going to make a big difference to how efficient it is. Of course, these days, synchro shift takes care of a lot of that for you.
And whilst 1-by might make a lot of sense for race day, we tend to use our bikes every day, perhaps even riding home from the race, and you may end up cursing that 1-by setup when you can't even ride up your own driveway to your house.
And to have the perfect race day setup with 1-bar, you need to have a range of options on chainring size for that big front chainring. And now, looking at the route profile online before the race is just not going to cut it. And even riding the race route slowly beforehand is not going to cut it. You need to know what gears that race course requires at race day power. And that is really hard to know.
But once you have your 1-by set up, it does require less maintenance and less fuss.
So now we've had a chance to play with it, Mark. What are we saying? Is 1-by the future of triathlon?
Well, honestly, I think it sits in the realm of disc wheels. If you have the money, you've optimized every area you can for gains, and are looking for those marginal watt savings, regardless of cost or time, then a 1-by option may be right for that triathlon course, well, flat triathlon course.
Yeah, provided you choose the right cassette and chainring size for that course, and you don't live anywhere too hilly, and maybe you have a race day only bike, which not many people do.
Yeah, but if you're looking for something revolutionary and easier, well, 1-by probably isn't ready for you yet.
Yeah, we're going to say yet, because I'm sure that with advances in technology, we're going to see the gear ratios and also the efficiency of 1-by improve, and in the near future, it will be versatile and practical enough for almost every triathlon course.
Yeah, well, let us know what you think in the comments section down below. Have you tried a 1-by setup before, and what did you think? Or have you been considering it for your next race? Let us know in the comment section down below. We hope you enjoyed today's video. If so, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe.
Thanks for watching.